I thought since some of you are taking the LSAT fairly soon in June and July, I thought I might go over some LSAT test day mistakes that you want to avoid. So these are my 7 biggest mistakes that you want to avoid. The first couple deal with stress reduction. So the first is, I don't want you to think that it's all about this one test that you're registered for. Because the LSAT as a whole, of course, is incredibly important, but no one particular LSAT test date will make or break you. You always have future opportunities to retake. And so for those of you, again, taking in June, if you register for July as well, it could give you a tremendous amount of peace of mind so that you at least know, well, if June doesn't happen for you, you have another shot at it only 5 weeks later. The other thing I would say next is letting go. I don't want you to get bogged down or stressed on one particular question or section when you've already moved on from it. Let's say number 17 gave you trouble. You go on to number 18, but 17 is still kind of eating you up inside because you're thinking, oh my God, like I missed number 17 and I missed this other number 12. And then the last section, something else went wrong. And you're thinking, oh my God, my score is going to plummet. You can miss a couple questions and still do great. The average 170 scorer gets 10 questions wrong, which is crazy because there's 100 on the exam approximately. So a 90% accuracy rate could give you a 97th percentile score. So that just shows you how hard this exam is. Missing a few is okay. And so you don't want to get bogged down on tough questions in the moment either and think it's the end of the world, because you can miss a couple or skip a couple and come back to them later. The digital LSAT actually has a flagging function where you can mark off questions you want to return to at the end. And personally, I'll skip 3 to 5 logical reasoning questions in the moment, trusting that I'll be able to come back to them later. And I typically do because my pacing is good. But even if you don't, those were the toughest questions anyway, where your odds were the lowest. So I'd say, don't worry, flag them, and get into the rhythm with your pacing of blasting through the easiest questions in logical reasoning so that you'll have a time bank built up for the tougher ones that come later. Logical reasoning questions are presented in a general order of difficulty. And so that kind of gives you an insight into which ones will be harder and easier. I'd aim to do the first 10 and maybe 12 minutes or so for the average person. And then that gives you a couple minutes at the end, hopefully, to return to the toughest ones that you flagged. There are a couple of silly mistakes that people make on test day as well. When you go into the test center, you have to bring a government-issued ID. That should be government ID, not your university ID. And so make sure that you have a driver's license or a state ID, and that it is not expired, and that the name on the ID matches the name on your admission ticket precisely. So if there's a misspelling in one of them, or you got married and changed your name, or changed your name for some other reason, whatever it is, get that squared away now. Go on LSAC's site, make sure that your name with them is the same as the name on your government ID, and double check your admission ticket as well to make sure that those match also. If they don't, contact LSAC immediately. You can email them at lsacinfo@lsac.org, and it might take a little while to get back to you, so reach out now if you're taking the exam soon. Another silly mistake I see is people waiting until the end of the section to bubble. Each section is 35 minutes, and on the paper LSAT, when you're bubbling with a pencil, it may take a couple of minutes just to do the bubbling. It's crazy, but if you actually added up all the bubbling for 25 or 27 questions, it could take maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and that adds up. And so if you're waiting till the end, it would be awful if you didn't actually get to bubble in everything you completed before they call time. And the proctors are supposed to give you a 5-minute warning, but hey, they're human. They don't always do it. On the digital LSAT, though, this won't be a concern because there is a countdown timer, so it's automated. The 5-minute warning is also automated, and bubbling is as simple as tapping your stylus, and so it's not really taking you much time at all. Another silly mistake is focusing on other people before the exam and during the exam. You don't want other people stressing you out. You might overhear them say something that kind of rubs you the wrong way. Maybe they say that they didn't study much and were doing great, or maybe they're scoring much higher than you are, or maybe they tell you something that you didn't know that stresses you out, whatever it could be. There other people are a wild card. And so I'd recommend, if you can, stay away from them at the test center, focus on yourself, focus on your practice problems. And so I'd suggest, actually, speaking of that, bring some practice problems with you to the test center as a warm-up. It could be a favorite logic game, a couple logical reasoning questions, nothing too difficult, nothing you haven't seen before, but just as a way to kind of get you warmed up that day so that the first scored sections you're doing on test day are not actual LSAT problems. So keep that in mind. And finally, the last thing I would say on this is don't try out anything new on test day itself. Try to make it just another practice test. And I recommend, by the way, taking at least 10 full-length timed exams in the lead up to test day as 5 sections, not 4. You can create these by taking one exam, like let's say you're doing exams 83, 84, 85, and 86 as your full-length timed exams. You could take exam number 82, divide it into 4 parts, and splice them into each of exams 83, 84, 85, and 86, and then later tally your results for exam 82 to see what it might have been had you taken it under timed conditions. So you take these 10 timed exams, then you walk it on test day, it's just another test. It's test number 11, and you've gone through 10 sittings of 3 hours or more. So test day itself, you've got plenty of experience under your belt to bring to bear on the official administration. And once again, go in knowing that this is not your make or break. There's always a future opportunity to take another LSAT test. They've gone from offering it, again, 4 times a year to 9 or 10 times a year. So there's always another one in just a month or two. You don't have to wait too long on that. Now, make sure that when you're doing these timed exams, that you're properly simulating test day conditions. So no being casual with the timing, no giving yourself 40 minutes when there's only 35 minutes because this one problem gave you trouble and you made a stupid mistake at the beginning. It counts. It's all real. It's all 35 minutes. That's what everything is timed. So no breaks for the bathroom, no breaks to get a glass of water. Everything is on the clock. And no checking your answers question by question or section by section. You're not going to be able to do it on test day, so don't do it now. You could even have a friend proctor you. A lot of test prep companies offer free proctored exams for marketing purposes. And so you might go to one of them and just kind of bring your own exam if you want, or use theirs. And you could sit through the sales pitch and tune it out if you want, but at least you get them to proctor the exam for you. You get the strict timing and the real test day-like experience. The week before, you take a timed exam, maybe the weekend before, you do a few sections of review that week. Then let's say you're taking the exam on a Saturday, you take your final exam on Wednesday or Thursday, you review it that day or the following day. Friday, you rest, you do nothing. Then Saturday, you walk in and you just kill it. You just go in and give it your all. Whatever it is, and you can retake if you need to, but you know that at least you've done everything you could have up to that point.